I don't need gas.
What do you want? What's so funny?
That's what the other guy said.
Who's the other guy?
The guy who was driving that car back there. The guy who picked me up before you did.
Was that him in the car?
I'm sure it was. Couldn't have walked very far.
Why is that?
Because I cut off his legs and his arms and his head. And I'm gonna do the same to you.
You're terrible at the countdowns. You know that, right? You are literally the worst. I'd say, see, so what we have to do, people here, to get it right, we got to count down together, 3, 2, 1.
It's
I'm
because
like 3,
I don't know
he's
when
like
you're going to
3.
say it.
I'm like 2. And
You
he's
moron.
like 2. And then I say 1. And then 5 minutes later, you say 1.
You don't do it in proper sync each time, so it's random every time. So I'm literally trying to guess what you're going to say and when you're going to say it.
2. I mean, you can't.
Yeah, right.
It takes you 40 minutes to catch up.
We should be doing this
40
another
minutes.
way anyway, and we will be soon.
Why?
Because Skype's closing.
Oh, my God.
Well, we do.
I don't know. No one else is using it. So.
Well, exactly.
We're probably the only assholes that use this shit.
Yeah, they'll probably send us a Christmas card and everything. Yeah. Their last customers. Last man standing.
Yeah, we're here to talk the 1986, The Hitcher. I remember seeing this in the theater multiple times as a kid. Absolutely enjoy it. Never, it's one of those films that I never got into Rutger Hauer until I saw The Hitcher, and then I saw, watched Blade Runner again, and I went to see Lady Hawk and Osterman's Weekend, and all of his movies he's done before this, because The Hitcher's the one that put him on the map for me. And I never looked back. This film was directed by a man called Robert Harmon. He's done all right for himself. He's a gun for hire. He did The Highwaymen, which is pretty good. Kind of like a retelling of this, but not. You guys should check it out. Nowhere to Run with Van Damme. But he's worked closely a lot in years and years with Tom Selleck. He did all the Jesse Stone stuff and a lot of Blue Bloods, that TV show that I think Tom Selleck's in. And it's also written by a guy I really like. This is written by Eric Red, who went on to write Blue Steel, Near Dark, Body Parts, Bad Moon. He also directed Bad Moon and Body Parts, 2 films I actually really enjoy. Another career I'm surprised never really took off. But if you like Eric Red, those titles are pretty decent. We did Near Dark.
Yeah, that's right.
Overrated. But, it is what it is. And then you've got Mark Isham, who does the composing. I bring that up because the score in this is really haunting. I really enjoy the score in this. When the score becomes kind of a character, it's almost like the score gives the desert gives it a persona, gives the desert more of a persona. And I really like the score here. And then we got John Seal, the director of photography. The photography in this is top notch. It's beautiful. John Seal is known for movies like Perfect Storm, Talented Mr. Ripley, The Firm, Dead Poets, Mad Max, Fury Road, Rain Man, Witness. I mean, the guy knows how to point a camera.
Yes. Well, with my first experience of this, it was when I was a kid, and surprise, I got it out on video, and I remember thinking it was great and genuinely scary, especially the opening sequences.
Yeah, the opening sequence is the best part. It has its ups and downs, and I think that obviously that's deliberate. It's like a beating heart, and then it gets a little more faster and faster as we get more to the climax. But
I would say that the opening sequences are maybe too good, because they sort of, usually, traditionally, a story, be it a film or whatever, it's meant to get better and better as it goes along. But it's almost like, and I'm not saying that what we do get, after it is not good. It's pretty excellent. But with it being such a strong opening, it does sort of hurt the film in some way, in that it can't quite live up to it.
I disagree with that. I think if a film brings you in right away, and it stays its course. And this is what this film does. You're right. The beginning is the best part, but the rest of the film holds its own.
No, it does.
You know, you don't judge a band based on, they have one great album, but then the rest of the albums are pretty solid, but it doesn't mean you hate the band.
No, that's I'm agreeing.
It's the same kind of concept. You know, all movies always have one scene that stick out. Always. It might be something different. A lot of people are going to say it's the Jennifer Lee horrific scene with the truck. That could be a lot, or the French fries is the big one with the finger.
Yes.
So I think the film does pepper in quite a few elements of what we did get in the beginning, but nothing is as strong as the beginning.
Yeah.
The beginning is, if you want to bring somebody in, it's right up there with the Stranger Calls.
Yeah.
When Have You Checked the Children? That was the beginning of that one. And the rest of the film was great, but it was nothing like the beginning.
Well, it's up there with Scream as well, I would say, for such a strong opening. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of strong openings, but I just think that while the rest of it is indeed very, very good, it's just, that very strong opening isn't beaten. But we'll still get some very good stuff.
Well, this one we got a boy who's very good stuff. We got a boy, Rutger Hauer, God rest his soul. Just a underrated actor. He plays John Ryder, C.Thomas Howell, Jim Halsey, Jennifer Lee is Nash, Jeffrey Dunham, who I like to see, is Captain Estridge, Billy Greenbush, we've talked up before with Critters as the trooper, and then a bunch of, all the cops in this are all characters.
I was going to say,
and they're all nice to see.
Yeah, Armin Shimmerman, who would later go on to play the Ferengi Quark in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He's one of the cops towards the end, one of the detectives interviewing Jim.
Yeah, so you get a lot of different characters, whether they're in the middle of their but kind of, I think most of these actors were just starting out in the 80s, but good cast.
Yeah.
Good, well-rounded cast, and a small cast, which I always like to see. Now, the opening is always, you see, we were introduced to Jim there, and he's obviously falling asleep. I've done a trip like this from between Dallas to El Paso, and it's all desert. And man, there's the hotel here and there, and there's one sign that says, "Stop here if you're planning on going to El Paso. There's no more stops, no more gas stations. You need to stop, spend the night, and then continue your drive. Because if your car breaks down in the middle of this kind of, in this desert kind of environment, you're fucked."
Yeah.
So so I can relate to what our boy's going through. But he's very tired. He's drinking coffee, listening to his radio as best he can. And I like the intro where you see this Volkswagen bug go past him and pull it, drive ahead.
Yep.
And then moments later, he passes the bug. And he picks up our boy, Ryder. And
John
then
Ryder, yeah.
He passes the bug that Ryder what just came from. Rutger Hauer is so good in this. I mean,
he
plays villainous. Yeah. He plays villainous so great. And how he plays it is just like Blade Runner. And I still have this argument. I personally, and I'll probably get a lot of heat for this, I actually don't think he's the villain in Blade Runner.
Well, it's a fair argument, and I mean, I would sort of tend to agree with that, because it's more, I think Blade Runner is, a lot of it is certainly about human rights, or indeed, the android rights,
Yeah, not to dive into that one.
Yes.
But this one, he kind of takes that same persona. He doesn't yell a lot. He's very, very quiet,
he's
very
intense.
reserved, but he's intense by his eyes and the way he says something. There's a menacing tone to him. And it's the same thing with how he played, the name's in Blade Runner.
Oh, yes.
The replicant.
Roy Batty.
Roy Batty, that's it. And this whole dialogue is very fun because all he's asking him is, where do you want to go? He's not answering any of his questions.
Yeah, sinister.
And he finally says, what do you want? Panicking, and he starts laughing. And he was, what's so funny? Best line in the film. But I remember quoting this when I was a kid so many times when he goes, that's what the other guy said. And he goes, the other guy? Yeah, the other guy that was driving that car back there. But he couldn't walk very far. What? What do you mean? Because I cut off his legs and his arms and his head, and I'm going to do the same thing to you.
Yeah, it is very, I mean, genuinely very sinister and, quite terrifying, actually, especially if you're putting yourself in the position of Jim, he's just a young kid. What is he, about 18 here or something? And yeah, I mean, basically, John Ryder is holding all the cards here and he's letting him know what, and he's basically, yeah, he's scaring the shit out of him. So he is.
You're in trouble when you're trying to make a conversation with the guy you picked up, and he's saying,
"I'm going to cut you up."
You never know. You ever know what happens when you puncture an eyeball?
Yeah, yeah.
You ever wonder how much blood comes out of a man's neck when you cut it?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then there's a scene as well. I mean, there's other wee things where he's like, whenever they're passing the Volkswagen Beetle, and he, grabs his leg and puts it on the accelerator and then you sort of know that, there's something up. And just even the way that the Volkswagen is parked and stuff, off the road, you sort of know that, something's bad.
Yeah, he's making him speed it up.
Yes.
He doesn't want him to stop for whatever reason. There's a couple of conveniences. There's the construction site scene where they're passing that construction site and he puts the switchblade between his legs.
Yeah.
And he says, you say one fucking word, right? Castrates you pretty much.
Yes.
And Halsey's trying to, move his head to kind of show the construction guy, this guy's fucking nuts. But Ryder plays it off so casually.
Yeah.
And so almost playfully.
Well, it's whenever the construction guy thinks that the two of them are gay lovers, and he sort of gives him a funny look, and then waves him like, goes, "Okay, we'll get out of here." And then John Ryder, Rutger Hauer, blows him a kiss. So he's sort of mocking, the whole general situation, and he's taking it very lightly. So he is, even though he's got basically a very sharp knife to this young lad's balls, and yeah, it is generally quite a sinister performance overall.
My probably favorite shot of the film was coming up right here when he finally jettisons out of the car with the automatic car door.
Yes. And I know what one you're going to say, and I love it too.
Yeah, so he chucks him out of the car. He gets away. And he's, fuck you, and he drives away. And the sun's rising, and the rain stopped, and all you see from the distance is him on the trying to get his trying to get him back on his feet because he just got kicked out of a car.
Yes.
And you just see Ryder as he slowly gets up, the camera zooms in on him getting up, and it kind of goes up with him. Yeah.
Well, that actually wasn't the one I was thinking of, but yeah.
But that shot, I think, is just a wonderful shot. It's definitely one of the best ones of the film. Well, what shot were you thinking of in that part?
Well, basically, shortly after this, Jim's still sort of celebrating, and he's on a high after getting away from this madman. And there is a family pulls in front of him, and because he's in such good form, he's sort of waving at the kids and stuff. And then the teddy bear thing is moved to the side, and it's John Ryder. I got really fucking creepy.
Yeah, no, it's a good shot. But again, it's one of those things. Well, they're not going to kill a family.
Well, he does,
but he does. Yeah, no. This is where they say they're not pulling the punches.
Mm-hmm.
At first, when you first meet him, he hasn't done anything really. We don't know that he's really killed anybody in that VW. We don't know if he's just toying with them, or he's just a fucking lunatic. If he's hitting on them, we don't know what his MO is at this point. But once Halsey tries to get to that family before almost getting run off the road by a truck, he finally sees the Volkswagen pulled over.
And what's inside
it? Goes to it. Yeah. And you don't see anything. Don't need to. Well shot. We don't need to see, but he starts throwing up, knowing he slaughtered the entire family, including the children.
I would say as well.
I got to admit, you must do it pretty quick.
Well, yes, there are conveniences, of course, and there's quite a few overall. But I would say as well, this film was, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, was heavily criticized at the time for being too violent and gory. But actually, if the people who were doing the criticizing had actually watched it properly and paid attention, there is actually very little gore and violence shown on screen here. It's all about suggestion. Or cutting away, at the last moment, and your imagination filling in the blanks. So just what you saying there about that you don't see the family, massacred, this is a running theme throughout here. Even later on, when Nice gets pulled in half, you don't see it. You see the sort of lead up to it, but you don't actually see her being ripped in half. So there's actually it's actually quite toned down in terms of screen violence and gore, and very cleverly handled.
What's great about it is the way it's directed and the way it's shot. And that's why I brought up Robert Harmon and John Seal in the beginning of because even though we don't see the family get it, we don't see Jason gay. It's like when violence movies gets ripped on, it bothers me a bit because once you see it, you just go ew, and you go away. That's it.
Yeah.
Move on. But when you have it embedded in your brain,
exactly,
as this is building up, and you can't get that image out of your head, you can show it to somebody. It will last for a second. You'll go ooh, and then walk away. But if you embed it in your brain, what he's about to do to this girl or to this family, it's like reading a novel. And quite frankly, it could be more damaging.
100%.
Actually seeing it.
That's exactly true, and that's exactly, these guys knew what they were doing, and this is a very well directed film, especially with these aspects of it. You know what I mean? What your mind fills in, the blanks. Whenever it does that, it is much more disturbing than anything you can be shown on screen. And that's the real part of it. And these guys knew that. Maybe there was budgetary constraints as well, which, inadvertently helped. But yeah, the power of suggestion is always much more powerful than, I don't know, a gore fest, let's just say.
The scene where Halsey finally gets to a garage and he runs out of the car and he goes to this garage to make a call. It's obviously an abandoned garage at this point.
Yeah.
But he does see a payphone. He tries to use it and it doesn't work. And this is where Ryder comes in.
Yes.
And and then all he does is give him the keys to his car.
Mm-hmm.
And he could have killed him right there. He could have taken the keys and left him there to die. He could have done anything he wanted. But for some reason, he gives him the keys.
But
this is where I remember going, okay, this is what he's doing. He's doing a Mr. Glass.
Yeah, he's playing with him.
He needs to find his nemesis. And that's, Mr. Glass killed all these people to find his nemesis. Well, he found Bruce Willis through all this rubble. So this is his Bruce Willis. This is the only one to actually defeat him.
I mean, there are several ways.
He wants him.
Yeah, go ahead.
He wants him to kill him.
Yeah.
I figured that out pretty quickly. And we'll see that in the diner hotel, especially when he puts the quarters in his face, the pennies in his eyes.
Watching this.
But
sorry, go ahead.
But no, you're right.
Well, watching this again for the podcast, I watched it as an adult, and it still holds its power after all these years since first watching it as a kid. But looking at it this time, the whole weird relationship between John Ryder and Jim Halsey can be read in actually multiple ways. Is John Ryder trying to turn him into a killer? Is it some sort of fetish? There's arguably a lot of gay subtext here, which has been talked about over the years. But, there's multiple ways you can read this. And I think that it's great. And again, another very clever decision by the filmmakers to not explain it and leave it up to the audience's imagination, so that, like, many years later, you're talking there 40 years since this was first released, there's people like ourselves still discussing it and what is actually going on, and that's just such a very, very clever move by the filmmakers.
Yeah, but I do think whether he's a homosexual writer or not, I don't think the Halsey character is at all.
I think he is.
I do think, after watching it with more of adult's eyes, I guess you can say, and I was a kid when I saw it the first time, it would be more, I would say he is a homosexual. And I do think the character is dealing with that. I think he's a sociopath at the same time. I think he's dealing with, but I do think he's just using him to have him kill him.
Another reading of it.
I do think.
Go ahead.
That's what I think is going on.
Possibly, yeah.
I think the Jim Halsey character is just an innocent bystander at this point. You'll notice at the end too. We'll get to it when he goes in for a kiss, and
he spits on him.
He spits on him instead. He licks his spit. It's like, oh, come on, Rutger, what are you doing, man?
Yeah,
but you can jump.
Sorry, I would just like to say there is another way I was thinking it could be read as well. Again, it's open to interpretation, but it could be read that this whole film is possibly about Jim Halsey's repressed homosexuality. And if you, I mean, not so much to do with the homosexuality thing, but, you know, with his character arc, he goes from the start of the film being basically a bit of a pussy and a card. By the end of it, his character has become very dark and sinister, almost, but not quite, like John Ryder himself. And maybe that's what John Ryder wanted all along. You know what I mean? To turn him into himself.
No, I mean, that's a fair point. But I'm going to tell you right now, from the beginning, this kid always had balls. And I'll tell you that right now. He confronted him. He says he was scared, but he did what he had to do to get him out of there.
Yeah.
And since then, he's the one who tried to call the police. He's also the one who's tried to stop the family from getting killed, almost killing himself by getting hit by the truck to do so. He's always been the one to trying to track this guy down or to stop whatever he's from doing. So he does get, his character does get darker and darker. He's very shy. He's very reserved, the character. Even during trouble, he cries quite a bit. So, yeah, he does become more of a badass, I guess you can say at the end. But I don't think there's any homosexual tension of his character. I don't think there's any of that. I just think he's a well-written character who finally has had enough.
Yeah, well, the great thing...
he's tired of being bullied.
Yeah.
And he's had enough. And that's what drives him that. I don't think there's... The writer character, I'll give you that, the homosexual tones with him. But I wouldn't say that with the Halsey character at all.
Well, I mean, like I say, you know, what I find great about it is that it's open to so much interpretation and it's very clever writing and direction. So maybe he wasn't, you know, a complete pushy at the start, Jim, but certainly his character arc takes him to becoming a much more darker character with a very sinister edge. Not quite, but almost as sinister as John Ryder's. By the way, I know someone, well, over the years, I've known someone called John Ryder, and I can't even talk to the guy without thinking of this film. So there you go. You know.
What the film did need is timestamps and more people. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of scenes I mentioned earlier where he sees the family in the car, they die, and then moments later he sees the car. Well, it takes a little long time to kill all these people. Same thing with the VW driver in the beginning.
Yeah.
If he cut off his legs and arms and his head, he would be covered in blood and he wouldn't be hitchhiking 3 minutes down from the road, and he picks him up. So there's timestamps I do have a problem with. He's at the diner, calls the cops. He's in jail. What is this? 24 hours later? Is it? You know what I mean? We needed.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
even if they give us 2 hours, 3 hours, is this taking place in 1 day or 2 days?
Yeah,
you know, that's. I kind of wouldn't like that.
John Ryder does become almost a supernatural type character, or at least a character with supernatural powers at times. You know, even
the helicopter scene does that. Yeah. The helicopter scene does that for me.
Yeah, and that does sort of ruin the groundedness of it. Not just a little bit, like, you know, nothing major. You know, it's still entertaining. But whenever it sort of turns a bit into the Dukes of Hazzard later on, you know, with the helicopter and stuff, it does lose that little bit of, you know, grounded in reality. But I'm still enjoying it.
It's kind of like Demons. They probably had budget left over. Hey, let's blow up a helicopter. Yeah. What does that have to do with the movie theater? Let's do it. All right, sounds good.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, that's it. Exactly. But, I mean, I think another interpretation, if they had went this route, which would have been great, would have been if John Ryder was never caught by the police, and then it's left open to interpretation whether Jim Halsey was responsible for it all. And he was like, it had some sort of breakdown. He was mentally ill or whatever, and he had actually done it all, but believed, you know, and John Ryder actually represented his darker side. But obviously, it is established that John Ryder is a real living person, you know, especially when he gets arrested.
Yeah, I like the good versus evil. I like that there's
but there's lots of nuances here. You know what I mean?
I like the physical presence.
Yeah.
Of him being here, because we wouldn't get the outcome we did then.
Yeah,
and I like the outcome. I like how the film does end. It's muddled when it comes to how they get him and all, but it's still pretty cool. I do like Nash. I do like Jennifer Jason Leigh.
She's
I like to
okay.
see her.
Yeah. I like her.
She's.
Yep.
You need a woman in here. That's it.
Yeah.
That is it. You needed a woman. That's it. That's what she's there for. And then what happens to her is horrific.
Yeah.
And putting a woman in that is horrific in your mind.
Yeah.
So that's what she's there for.
But I mean, I like her as an actress. I think she's great in The Hateful Eight as Daisy Domergue, with Kurt Russell and stuff. But she hasn't that much to do apart from getting ripped in half. But she's all right. She's a little bit annoying, and yeah. But I mean, yeah, she's sort of.
Well, you had to have her, whether you think it's a plot convenience or not. You had to have her because of the fact that she needed to get to C, you needed a B.
Yeah,
and we're stuck in A here, so she's the B.
Mm-hmm.
She has to get him off that bus, get him protected from the cop.
Yeah,
she's got to be there to get him away from these cops who are about to kill him.
I think it is very tense whenever the cops are essentially looking at him and they believe he's done it. Jim. I think that's all.
And they say,
yeah,
you just spit on my shoe.
Yeah. That's a great scene.
Well, no,
do it.
Yeah, and
clean it up,
and then
yeah,
and then she takes the gun, fires it in the air.
Yes.
And they all know each other. She knows the cops. It's still a small town. Yeah, there's 20, 25 miles apart from each other, but they all know each other.
Yeah.
It's a desolate desert. And so everyone seems to know everybody. And so that's what she's there for, quite frankly.
Yeah. And it takes no, there's no prisoners taken here in terms of, the victims here, especially with the cops. It's just like they're fucking blasted. You know what I mean?
I do like when we talked about this with, what film was it? I can't remember now.
What we were talking about. And we were
talking about The Blob. We were talking about The Blob.
Yep. Kevin Dillon doing jumps on his motorbike. Yeah.
Yeah. With the really great looking mullet. When the cops get him, they finally catch him.
Yes.
And he's being interviewed. He's telling them, it's a driveway. I'm driving this guy's car from Chicago to California. I fly back to Chicago. Call my brother. Call the guy. Here's his numbers.
Yeah.
And they're giving him a hard time, but they're being professional. They're not being this, badass cops. I like this. Mm-hmm. And then he goes, put him in the fucking cell, get him on my site. And the head guy goes, that kid, he goes, the cop says, that kid isn't a killer. Any fool can see that.
Yeah.
So they know this kid didn't do it. And I like that already.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's all thrown away when he wakes up in the cell and Ryder has pretty much
massacred them all. Well, he's a Terminator, essentially. And in fact, it did remind me of the scene in the Terminator, although you don't see it here, where Arnie massacres the entire station.
Yeah, this is Rutger Hauer, man. It's fucking awesome, man. Yeah, so he decides to kidnap 2 cops at this point. This is where he loses it at this point. Now the great thing about it, at this point, he's now pretty much lost the plot. Yeah, and he doesn't care at this point. He's going to take chances now.
He's a complete desperado.
This character. Yeah, what's the point? He's nothing else to lose.
Yep.
So he gets the 2 cops, he kidnaps them, and he ends up calling Esteridge on the walkie-talkie, going, I didn't do this, man. Your boys are dead because of this fucking nut job. And I do like the fact when he shows up, Ryder shows up, and he just pretty much
blows the shit out of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Blows the shit out of them.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And it's not long after this that we get the sort of the whole nice scene where she's ripped in 2, which is, again, it all goes back to the sort of, I think it's pretty clear in my head that certainly Ryder sees it as some sort of almost sexual fetish type game that he's playing with Jim, almost like some sort of BDSM, but with real lives. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty, it's dark stuff.
One of the scenes we passed on, which is an important scene where he's getting a cup of coffee. This is before he goes on the bus. Yeah. And sees Nash again and explains everything. Mm-hmm. Is where he's sitting down having a cup of coffee and he's looking like shit. And even everyone's like, you okay, son? Yeah, I'm fine. Leave me alone. Just give me a cup of coffee. And Ryder sits right next to him. Just, hello, buddy. Right across from him. And He goes, "Oh, buddy, I got a gun, man." And the great thing when C.Thomas Howell, when he has the gun underneath the table, he doesn't realize it's empty.
Exactly.
And it's all these deaths on these cops that are happening around him, and his family's been executed. There's this one moment of hilarious. It's very funny. It's between these two right now, and so he's got the gun, and the writer is sitting there, and he's like, "Well, I got my gun underneath here. I'll blow your dick off," whatever he says.
Yeah.
And Halsey, the way C.Thomas Howell sells it, he just looks crazy. He's, "Yeah, well, yeah, you're gonna shoot me, yeah."
He's completely
like,
desperate.
"Yeah, you're gonna shoot me."
Yeah.
And all Rutger Hauer does is make a bumping sound, and he starts firing what is now, we find out, an empty gun.
Yeah.
Because he tells him, "You got that.
You didn't even check it." Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't check it. I empty all the bullets in the gun at the prison.
Yeah. And then he throws the bullets back down on the table.
Yeah, well, this is the cool part. This is where I was talking about where it the nail in the coffin that he wants him to kill him.
Yeah.
So he licks the 2 pennies and he puts them over, Halsey's eyes, and that was a way to inform him 2 things: either you're going to die or I'm going to die. And in obviously old Egyptian times, or mythology, I can't remember what it's under.
Oh, well, even I think Victorian times.
When somebody dies, let me finish, please. When somebody dies, you put 2 coins.
Yes.
One on their tongue, or 2 over their eyes, to pay the ferryman to bring you to heaven or wherever you're going.
Yeah.
And that was his way of saying it's either going to be you or I. And the reason I say that is because he ends up giving him the bullets for the gun.
Yep.
And he walks away. So he says, "I'm either going to kill you or you're going to kill me.
Yeah.
You make the call."
I would say that Rutger Hauer here, well, his character, John Ryder, wants to die. I think that would be the ultimate of him winning the game. He wants to turn Jim into a killer like himself, because it's like it's a kinky fetish thing. I think I could be wrong. Of course,
I think you're hanging on that too much. I think he just wants to die. I think it's a lot like Kevin Spacey's character in Seven.
Mm-hmm.
He either wants redemption or he wants to take an innocent person and make him a killer.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know, but it's got that Seven kind of feel, or vice versa, because this came out first. But you can see Christopher McQuarrie playing a lot with very loosely, guys, on the Hitcher with Seven.
Yeah,
the way he's toying with this character,
and that sort of backs up even more to me. There's definitely, at least from John Ryder's point of view, there's definitely a sexual element. He's getting off on this, big time.
That could be true. Like, he could be getting off. He might not even be gay.
Yeah,
he could be just getting off on it in general.
Yeah,
because he's a sociopath.
Mm-hmm. But he's definitely getting.
Wow, you'll be all happy with that. You get some. It's you. I'm not going to do it because I'm classy.
Right,
I'm classy.
Right.
I'm a very classy person, and I'm not going to bring up the last podcast.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I am restraining today.
Here, for the first time in your life,
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. I don't even know what you're talking about. I thought the last podcast ran completely smoothly.
Yeah, I bet you did. Sick fuck. Yeah, well, past the action sequences, I do like the flipping of the cars and shit. It's cool and all.
The action sequences are well done,
but it doesn't suit the film.
Well, it's a bit Dukes of Hazzard meets the A-Team at this point, But I think it still does work. But it's a bit.
It's still entertaining. You needed that oomph because pretty much most of the film is dialogue driven.
Yeah.
So you needed that little 80s action pack explosion and shit.
A-Team. Yeah.
I just think when the writer takes out the gun and he's driving, he shoots the helicopter down. I was like, oh.
Yeah. He's Rambo, essentially, in some of these scenes. There's similarities here to the likes of Duel as well. And, there was a film in the 90s I remember watching. I think it might be Kurt Russell.
Breakdown. You're thinking of Breakdown.
Yes, that's it. So there was similarities. Obviously, Breakdown came after it, and so a lot of that was sort of running through my head when I was watching these scenes as well.
Well, when he's with Nash now, and they're in that hotel room, and he goes to shower, and she's sleeping, and there he is in the room. It's like, that's a fucking great shot.
Yeah.
He's just in the room staring at her. It's just fucking creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
And of course, he comes out of the shower, walks out, and again, I like the cops are smart. This is Esteridge now. Esteridge is the one who talked to him before the cops got shot in the car. He goes, listen, kid, we know you're not the problem. We need you to talk him down. He wants to see you.
Yeah.
So the cops were always with him the whole time, which besides the two cops who the one cop went gung-ho.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like that. That's the way cops would react. And so they're smart. But again, this is where it leads to the scene, which was probably the most talked about scene in the film. And if anybody was offended, would be this scene where Jennifer Jason Leigh, Nash, gets torn in half.
But you don't actually see it.
I know, but Jesus Christ, you still go, oh.
And it shows you how well it is directed. The fact that it upset so many people, because it's like the whole, people thinking that they saw red blood running down the drain in the shower scene in Psycho. You don't actually see it. So people being upset, I read up, Gene Siskel was shouting about his disgust of this film and stuff, and you're like, why? You know what I mean? Yes, there is a lot of heavy suggestion of extreme violence, but you're not actually seeing it on the screen. And a lot of people, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, that a lot of people, probably still to this day, will call it a sicko film and a really violent film, but they're not really.
The Texas Chainsaw had a PG rating.
But in the UK, it didn't.
Yeah, well, I don't care. On the States, it had a PG, and he goes, guys, please, I need an R here. Nobody's going to want to see a
exactly.
Texas Chainsaw movie.
Well, in the UK, at the time of the Video Nasty scare, there were actually several Video Nasty lists. Now, the main one had 72 titles on it, but I know that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was on one of the other lists, I believe. I think I'm right there. But yeah, so it certainly wasn't a PG here,
So the way the scene handles itself is you've got three elements here. You've got Halsey, please don't do this. I can't shoot you. If I shoot you, you'll take your hand off the brake.
And she gets ripped in
half.
half.
Off the brake and you'll kill her. And he's saying, you have to kill me. And even the way writer sells it, or Rutger Hauer, is he looks tired in this scene. First, he's playing with him the whole time. He's grinning with him. In this scene, he's tired and worn out.
He wants the game to be finished.
He's almost like, again, going back to Batty, where he's dying at this point, and he just wants you to finish him off. I'm done. End of the game. Would you please just kill me? But he can't. And what the tenso is, you've got her, you see her you don't see her stretching. You see like from her wrists or something.
Yeah.
And then you hear her screaming, and then you hear the revving of the engine.
Yes.
That's how they pull the intensity of her being torn apart.
Again,
sound effects.
Just like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre did as well, with the people getting put on hooks and stuff. It's just very well done.
And of course, we know the outcome there.
Yes.
Now the jail scene, he finally gets to go sit down face to face with him. And this is where he grabs his hand. The cops are looking at him like, why are you grabbing this fucker's hand? And you think this might be right, what you're saying about the writer character. And Halsey's kind of figured it out.
Yes.
He goes in, as you think, for a kiss, but he spits in his face. And if you notice, what Ryder does is he puts his hands on his face, kind of like you do if you're saying a prayer.
He's been rejected.
And then he rubs the spit that he spit on him around his lips. It's like, dude.
But he's also been rejected at this point by Jim sexually, because throughout the whole film before this, he's basically wanting Jim for himself. But Jim,
I don't know. I think it's not going that far.
I mean, obviously,
I don't think he wants to. I don't think it's sexual.
It definitely is to me.
I do not think, John. I do not think he's like, oh yeah, listen, I'm going to start dismembering these people. I will stop if you give me a Hummer. I mean, what the fuck? That's not what he's saying.
Right. Number one, what the fuck is a Hummer? I've never heard that expression before.
Yeah, you have. Fuck off.
Haven't I?
Fuck
I
off.
definitely.
This comes from the guy who only wants to see dicks and assholes in a movie. And yet you don't know what a Hummer is?
Oh, I got
Fuck
it.
off.
Yeah,
If you sit there and go, oh, is that a type of
I
truck?
thought you were restrained. Oh,
Too late. You pissed me off. I knew I wouldn't last. You pissed me off.
I'm basically John Ryder, and you're Jim Halsey, and I've got you to bite.
Okay, first of all, don't ever compare. Don't, dude. You need to sometimes stop before you speak.
No,
maybe stop and think before you say something.
No,
you're a sociopath, homosexual. Is what you are now. Okay, that's great. I'm glad you are. And you know what? If you want to call me Halsey, the one who fucking takes a shotgun and fucking pummels you with bullets, not a problem. Not a problem. You know what? No, that's okay with me. But I do like the ending where he says he's had enough, and he decides to go get him for the last shot.
Yeah,
beautiful shot because they do it from a distance.
Yeah,
you have the cop car, and then you have him with the shotgun, and it gets a little Terminator when he jumps through the glass. And like,
I mean, this is one of the scenes where it does lose its sort of gritty realism, you know, whenever he jumps back up after being shot and all, and, you know, it's like the whole sort of, you know, final scare, you know, you think the killer's dead, but he's not really, you know, you would get in a slasher.
But yeah, he gets it. He pummels him with a couple rounds in the shotgun. And that's it. Lights a cigarette, and the credits roll.
Yep.
Oh, it's such a good movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't wear out its welcome. It still holds up for me. I love Rutger Hauer in this. Actually, they all do their job.
It's right across the board.
C.Thomas Howell. It's definitely C.Thomas Howell's best film.
Yes.
Next to actually, Red Dawn is probably his best.
No,
actually, in all fairness,
no, think here.
His character,
for me,
his character is a lot like the Red Dawn character. Remember, he's the Star Wars kid.
Yeah.
Kind of a nerd.
No.
And then he goes on.
And he becomes a bit of a badass. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
I always quite liked C.Thomas Howell. He was not quite Brat Pack, but he was sort of Brat Pack, but he didn't quite make it as big as some of the other ones, like Emilio Estevez and stuff. But I always liked him. And you know what? He about 10, 15 years ago, he popped up in Torchwood, the Doctor Who spin-off. So there you go. There's a Doctor Who reference for you, Ciaran. He did.
Podcast is over. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap this one up. Yeah, check this out. I people know about it. They all like it. It's one of those films when you mention it, oh yeah, I forgot about the Hitcher. They finally released it on 4K, and it's gorgeous.
Right, I would imagine, especially with the desert and stuff.
Yeah, and the sound and all. It's just wonderful. But guys, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's quite good. There you go. We're going to wrap this one up. Listen, people, you all have a good Easter, and you enjoy yourselves, and go, catch bunny rabbits and get eggs. And
chocolate
oh my
eggs.
God, Cadbury's eggs. Oh, the worst thing you can eat, the cream filled. They have peanut butter versions now. They have peanut butter versions.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always had a really bad sweet tooth since I was a kid. But yeah, Cadbury chocolate is the best, for me anyway.
You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. And chili beans and everything. And then we're doing, I think, Easter dinner on Friday night because there's a wedding I'm going to.
Yep.
On Monday. So I think everyone's just, but should be fun. Well, listen, you guys be safe and enjoy yourselves. And we'll be back in about a week's time starting with the Mission Impossible's retrospective. We're going to finish those up because the new one's coming out real quick here in less than about a month and a half. So we might pepper one more in before we start the Mission Impossibles. So if you guys want us to do something, give us a shout. We might do another Western. Sorry, it's not. I think nothing's edged in stone because we keep changing it quite a bit. But Tombstone and Unforgiven and The Quick and the Dead have done really well for us. So I think Westerns is the way to go. Maybe do one more.
Maybe what about
tackle Mission Impossible?
Well, what about? I'll put you on the spot. What about, because we've done the first one? How about Young Guns 2?
No, we're gonna wait because they're about to film Young Guns 3.
Well, fair enough.
So I think we should wait and do that, and maybe revisit all of them together.
Okay.
So let's hold off on that one. Yeah, that's kind of cool. They just announced that is official. That's definitely happening. Young Guns 3.
Yeah. And apparently it's going to be called, and I'm not joking here, because obviously these guys are in their at least late 50s, early 60s now. They're just calling it Guns 3 because they're not young guns anymore. They're just guns. Seriously?
I can't remember. I can't remember what's going on. I know Lou Diamond, Kristen Slater, and Emilio was back, and Neil was directing. But it's been tough because I need my Kiefer. So maybe he'll be enough. Maybe he'll have a twin brother.
Or maybe it'll be Ghost Kiefer. You know, who knows?
Yeah.
Or a flashback.
We'll
do a flashback with de-aging.
Yeah, but it's a small budget. They're not going to go all out. We'll see. We'll see. You never know. But yeah, so we might just do another Western. I think we probably do a Clint, like Pale Rider or something. But give us a shout at @CitizenFame_podcast on Instagram or Facebook. What Western you might like us to do next before we get to the Mission Impossibles. And we'll take all your suggestions on board and we'll run with it. The new issue of Phantasmagoria is out now. It is available at Forbidden Planet locally, some local stores within the U.S., and of course all around the world on Amazon.
It is indeed. Yep.
We are done with this one. Thanks for joining us. Have a good one.